It was a Tuesday night in October, the kind where the rain falls so heavy you can barely see the road ahead. I was driving home from a wedding photography job in the mountains, exhausted, soaked to the bone, and praying for nothing more than a dry bed and silence. Then, through the sheets of rain, my headlights caught something moving along the shoulder of the highway, a dog. A golden retriever, drenched, trembling, limping slightly, looking as lost as I'd ever seen any living thing. I should have kept going. It was late, dangerous, and I was beyond tired. But something inside me made me pull over. Maybe it was the way the dog didn't run away. Instead, he walked straight toward my car as if he'd been waiting for me all along. I stepped out, the cold rain immediately cutting through my jacket. "Hey buddy, you okay?" I asked softly. The retriever came right up to me, sat down at my feet, and looked up with those deep, trusting eyes. He wore a weathered leather collar, and on the metal tag it said, "Charlie, if found, return to 112 Maplewood Drive." The address was an hour away. I should have called animal control, or maybe a vet to check for a microchip. But there was something about this dog, the calm way he trusted me, the quiet understanding in his eyes, that made me decide to take him home myself. I opened my car door, and without hesitation, Charlie jumped inside and curled up in the passenger seat like he'd done it 1,000 times before. As I drove, he rested his head on the center console and sighed, the kind of sigh that sounds like relief. For the next hour, I drove through dark, twisting mountain roads with a strange dog beside me that didn't feel strange at all. Charlie didn't bark or fidget, just sat quietly, glancing at me every so often, as if to make sure I was still there. By the time I reached Maplewood Drive, it was nearly midnight. The neighborhood was calm, old houses, wide porches, flower beds that somehow still bloomed in October. Number 112 was a blue house with a porch light glowing warmly through the rain. I parked. Charlie looked at the house the same way I did, like it was familiar. I couldn't explain why, but something about that house stirred a feeling in me, a faint echo of recognition. I got out, Charlie following close behind.
Wie Valket ab ze steps toget her.
When I knocked, an older woman answered, silver hair tied back, eyes kind but full of shock.
When she saw me, she froze.
Then tears filled her eyes. "You found him again," she whispered.
I blinked.
"Ma'am, I think you're mistaken. I've never been here before." She looked at me the way someone looks at a ghost. "Yes, you have," she said quietly.
"Please, come in.
"I need to show you something." I hesitated, every logical instinct telling me to leave, but her voice carried something familiar, something my heart recognized even though my mind didn't. The house smelled like vanilla and old books. Photos lined every wall. Charlie trotted straight to a bed in the corner, like he knew exactly where it was. The woman picked up a picture frame from the mantel and handed it to me. It was a photo of a little boy, maybe 6, laughing as a golden retriever licked his cheek. Behind them was the same blue house.
The boy in the picture was me.
I recognized everything, the face, the missing tooth, even the t-shirt I'd worn in another photo my cousin kept. But I had no memory of this.
None.
"When was this taken?" I asked, my voice barely steady.
25 years ago, she said softly.
"You were 6.
That's my house, this house. That's Charlie. The first Charlie.
You found him before, Ethan."
I staret et her. How do you know my Name?
She gave a sad, trembling smile. "Because you lived next door, Ethan Ward. Your parents and I were close friends. You spent almost every day here until the accident."
The word hung between us. My chest tightened.
"You mean when my parents died?"
She nodded.
"You were at my house that night. They were coming home from dinner. You were supposed to sleep here, but your uncle came the next morning. He said he was taking you to Raleigh to raise you himself. He said it would be best if you started fresh, away from the memories." I sat heavily on the couch. Why don't I remember any of this?
She sighed.
"Your uncle told me you'd forgotten everything before the accident. He said it was trauma, dissociative amnesia.
You didn't speak for months.
You never mentioned me or Charlie or this house. And your uncle thought it would hurt you more if you remembered. So, I stayed away." I stared at the old photo again. The boy I used to be, the dog I'd loved, the life I'd lost. "You mean I had a whole other life before the one I remember?"
"Yes," she said softly. "You were my boy too, Ethan.
You and Charlie were inseparable." She smiled faintly. "After you left, Charlie lived 8 more years. When he passed, I got another golden retriever. Named him Charlie too."
"This one here?"
"He's Charlie the 3rd. Something cracked inside me, a dam I hadn't known was holding anything back. I asked to see more pictures. She brought out albums, stacks of them. Page after page of me as a kid in her house, laughing, covered in frosting, gardening, running through sprinklers. In every photo, I looked happy,
Safe. Loved.
and in almost every one, there was a golden retriever by my side. I remember rain, I murmured suddenly.
Running. A dog.
I thought it was a dream.
It wasn't, she said.
It was your memory trying to come back. Her name was Margaret Hale. We talked for hours. She told me stories about my parents, how my mother laughed so loud it filled the room, how my dad told the world's worst jokes, how I used to bring her flowers from the yard and call her Aunt Maggie. When I finally left, it was almost dawn. Margaret stood on her porch, Charlie beside her. "Will you come back?" she asked softly.
Yes, I promised.
When I got home, I called my uncle.
It was 4 a.m.
"Uncle Richard," I said, "why didn't you tell me about Margaret?" His silence said everything. "How do you know about Margaret?" he finally asked. "I found her dog.
I went to her house. She showed me photos of me. As a child. A long pause. Then he sighed. You didn't remember her, Ethan.
You didn't remember anything. The therapist said forcing those memories could re-traumatize you. I thought I was protecting you." "You didn't protect me," I said quietly. "You erased me."
His voice broke.
"You have no idea how hard it was.
You were empty. Gone.
And when you started to heal, I didn't want to risk breaking you again. I did what I thought was right. I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't be. Fear makes people do impossible things."
I understand, I said finally.
"I forgive you. But I need to know who I was." That weekend, I drove back to Maplewood Drive. This time, Margaret's granddaughter answered the door, Clara. She was around my age, paint smudged on her hands, eyes sharp and kind. Before letting me in, she said, "Are you serious about being here? Because my grandmother waited 25 years for you. Don't break her heart again."
"I'm not going anywhere," I told her.
She studied me for a moment, then nodded.
"Good.
Come in." Margaret was baking cookies. The smell hit me before I saw her. "Ethan," she said, tears in her eyes. "You came back." I said I would. We spent the day sharing stories. Clara joined us, sometimes adding her own memories of Margaret's stories about me. She told me she was an art therapist, working with children who'd survived trauma. I told her I was a photographer, capturing moments instead of painting them. We both smiled at the coincidence. Over the months that followed, I went back every weekend. Margaret filled in the blanks of my childhood. Clara and I became close, first friends, then something deeper. By spring, I realized I wasn't just visiting Margaret anymore, I was visiting home. One night, sitting on the porch, I told Clara, I didn't come back just for Margaret. I came back for you too. She smiled softly. I feel the same. That night under the stars with Charlie 3 curled at our feet, we kissed for the first time, quiet, certain, like finding something you'd forgotten you'd lost. A year later, I moved back to that town for good. Margaret was thrilled. She said she'd finally gotten her boy back. Clara and I married in Margaret's backyard 3 years later.
Margaret Kriet trug se vole ting, Kellingsem happy tears.
Charlie 3 sat beside us in a little bow tie, patient and proud. When Charlie passed away a few months later, Margaret said, "His job is done. He brought you back." She adopted a new golden retriever soon after, not another Charlie but Luna. Because this one didn't have to find anyone. She was just there to stay. Now Margaret is 75. She moves slower, but her spirit's the same. I still visit her almost every day. Sometimes we sit in silence, remembering. Sometimes she tells me new stories that fill in old blanks. And sometimes when I drive past my old house, the one I don't fully remember, I see kids playing in the yard where I once played, and I think about how life moves forward, yet somehow circles back. Some memories fade, but love doesn't.
Connection does end.
That rainy night, I thought I was just rescuing a lost dog. Turns out, he was rescuing me.
Strich.
If this story touched you, about forgotten memories, impossible reunions, and love that survives even when memory doesn't, hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss another story like this.
And tell me,
have you ever rediscovered a part of your life you didn't know you'd lost?